Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ohio State Primetime Live. I'm your co-host Ryan Stano.
I'm Garrison Gaddy.
Well, Garrison, we had a little bit of somewhat unexpected news. Since I know it's been a week since I last saw you, I had some family matters I had to attend to last week, so missed you on Thursday. But Ohio State went ahead and hired who I think could possibly be a Larry Johnson replacement. They went ahead and hired Tony Washington Jr. as the assistant defensive line coach. Uh, he was previously the assistant defensive line coach with UCLA as well as the outside linebackers coach. Previously coached at Oregon as well as a former player too.
Mm-hmm.
And now he will help Larry Johnson, assuming Larry Johnson comes back, up front along the defensive line. So, what are your thoughts on this hire? What do you think of Tony Washington?
Well, I think it's a good hire. Of course, well, I think it was last week, and prior to that, we talked about if we believe Larry Johnson will be here when the season starts. Both you and I for different reasons said we don't know. Like we couldn't even really. I tried to get an answer out of you, and truthfully, I couldn't get one for myself also. And so to see that we have, I have it here. Well, it's been played for Oregon from 2011 to 2014. So I actually played against Ohio State that season, which is really cool. I had 14 and a half sacks in his time there over at Oregon. And then, spent last year at UCLA as the not offensive line, but the outside linebacker coach and the D line coach. And I think, hey, he was a really good player. Had some time over Nebraska, had some time at Oregon. Why not bring him in? And honestly, it seems like Ohio State and Oregon are going to have a lot to do with each other over the next few years here going forward, it looks like.
Yeah, and you know what? This signals, you mentioned we weren't sure what Larry was going to do. I think this signals Larry's probably coming back. I think that's what this means. Otherwise, they wouldn't have named Washington the assistant defensive line coach. I think what this signals is they wanted to bring someone younger in who they think has the potential to lead the unit at some point, but they wanted someone that they could come in and learn from, one of the legends of coaching. And I mean, we've talked about the issues that we have with Larry currently, but he is a legend. I mean, the things he's done for the program, the players he's brought in and developed, there's no debating that. So I think, and I mean, quite honestly, now that who we both wanted to be his replacement is now at Texas, I think this is probably this is probably the best that they could do at this point. They can always reevaluate at the end of next season because this will be Larry Johnson's last year. And then they can go ahead and decide whether or not they think Washington's ready to actually make that leap to run the whole unit or if they want to go out and get someone else.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really good also that we didn't get someone that hasn't been an actual defensive line coach. He has some time at that, or it's 1 year, but he had a season at that. So I think that bodes really well for Ohio State. I think it's another really good hire by Ryan Day. And like I said before, I trust Ryan Day when it comes to hires because as short as 6 years as a head coach, he's made correct hires more times than not.
So how much do you think Patricia had to do with this hire? I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
I don't think he had much to do with it because from the time he came in and Clark left, there wasn't that much time between there. So I'm sure there was other things between there, like he's still having to go through. I mean, hell, the guy still has to go through HR. So I think that he probably didn't have a lot to do with that. I think that was someone that, if you're Ryan Day, and I believe him to be a smart coach, or he knows that La'Alon Clark was a hot commodity in college football. So people are calling his number and probably emailing him or however else they gotta contact him. And so you have to have a plan B, or I guess really I mean this would be a plan A.
This is more like plan.
It's plan A because this this is the first choice you made. So no, I think it's worked out very well.
Yeah. Question from Tyler. We do, from everything that's been reported, it was either this year or next year is going to be Larry, I mean, either this past season, the 2024 season, or 2025 is going to be Larry's last year. It was basically reported that Ryan Day pretty much has given him not, I don't want to say an ultimatum, but basically a choice where it's you can either coach one more year or we can go ahead and just have you move on now. And I think it's more of to the point, and we both have talked about this on the show, that it's getting to the point where the negative recruiting is just kind of taking its toll. And Larry's, he's what, 74 now? I mean,
he's getting up there,
not,
man.
He's not getting any younger, and I think it's best for all parties involved if he moves on here sooner rather than later. Quite honestly,
he's older than Jim Tressel. I mean,
yeah, and he's yeah. So I think that's probably why this is truly his last year. Now this I don't necessarily co-sign. It's not the Buckeye Beat's fault. That's what the Buckeye Beat is hearing other teams come up with. Like they're hearing that from the Ohio State side because there are multiple other programs that are negatively recruiting up front because it's an easy pain point for them to do. Now, that has been eased a little bit with NIL. Like if you just throw enough like NIL money now to recruit, they can do, most recruits will come in. But this is one of the very few coaches that other programs can go at and be like, hey, look, who knows how longer he's going to be there. He's getting up there in age. Retirement's coming off soon. So I don't necessarily think it's the Buckeye Beat's fault.
Well, I like Larry. I love Larry. I think he's been one of the best assistant football coaches in Ohio State history. He's been a legend everywhere he goes. I think his best years are behind him. It's not that I don't think he can be a coach somewhere. I just think at this level, at his age, I think it's a little bit different now. Sometimes it's good to get new blood in there.
Yeah. And I want to be clear.
And there's nothing wrong with him going. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I think if he would have retired this season after this championship, that was the right way to go. You stuck it out with JTT, Jack Sawyer with your boys, and I mean, who were your last two really highly recruited or highly rated,
highly touted recruits? Yeah.
Since Chase. So
and both of us, I think I speak for both of us when I say I don't want to take any credit away from what he's done. Like, he has been fantastic. Mm-hmm. Like I said, he is a coaching legend. Like, he's done really good things for Ohio State, but all good things must come to an end. So I think that's just kind of what needs to happen now.
Sorry. They gave me a black card and carte blanche authority. All I know is where that's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, any other thoughts here on Washington before we move on?
Nope, just hey, welcome to Buckeye Nation, and I hope that he's here for the future, aka next season, possibly this season, or whenever his time comes, because I guarantee you, he won't be here for long. So
yeah. I know there's some recruiting news that you wanted to get to specifically, so go ahead and take us that route.
Yeah, man. So Derek Cooper, out of Chamonix Madonna, same high school as Jeremiah Smith. They're at prep school. So he set his visits for I think 6 of them, but visits Ohio State June 20. Now, of all the running backs so I'm actually right now, Ryan, I gotta send it to you. I'm going through a graph right now of all the prospect Ohio State is looking at, and right now I have him at like I think the color I picked for him was a light blue color. Meaning I don't think I'm ever gonna get him.
Okay.
But I think it's a chance. It's the third shade. It's the the second shade you can get to. But I think that he's someone that he reminds me of a Josh Jones. Like he's 6'1", 205. He plays safety, but also plays running back. He's the number 4 athlete in the nation. Number 31 overall.
For those that don't know, he's a running back out of South Florida.
Like he can do both. He can do both. Now, I'm not someone to sit here and tell you that he can come to Ohio State and be like a Jabril Peppers. they're
No,
playing
I mean, especially because
downstate.
Carlos Laughlin's the one recruiting him, so they
Yeah,
would bring him in
exactly.
as running
So
back.
I think it's very solely we want him as a running back. Clearly, Coach Laughlin likes what he has as a running back. I watched his highlights earlier today, and actually, how about you give your thoughts on him, and I'll pull these up for us.
No, Cooper's he's a good prospect. There's a lot of good players down there in South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as you mentioned, he he's at Chaminade, which is same place where Jeremiah Smith went to. A lot of good players down there. I mean, and he's been recruited by all the big boys. I mean,
Yep.
Georgia, Miami, Auburn, Bama, like you name it. Obviously Ohio State, so you name it. Schools looking at him. I like how he's able to just run between the tackles, and you saw right there in that highlight, like he was able to run through the tackles without really being slowed down by arm tackles.
Right.
So that's something that excites me about him because, he doesn't necessarily, in my mind, he doesn't have like that huge like burst, but he just runs powerfully. Like no one is going to get him with an arm tackle. You are going to have to wrap him up and drive him down, and
Right.
that's what I like about him. Ohio State in recent years. Besides Quinshawn, quite frankly, they haven't had a whole lot of guys that you can have, that can run with that much power and not be slowed down. So, he's a big dude, and if Ohio State can land him, that would be very nice. But like you, I tend to be a little bit more pessimistic on their chances of actually getting him on campus.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I like guys like him. I've never been the biggest wiggle guy. I've mostly like north and south type of running backs. They get uphill fast, and then they can make a move they need to. But I've always loved stiff arming, things like that, right?
Yeah,
But he has that in him.
He's a one cut back. He's just a one cut,
and he has breakaway speed. He doesn't have a lot of burst. I agree with you there. But with that stride he has, he's able to get past guys and run. He won't get caught from behind. At least at this level. At the next level, it definitely can happen. But we've seen guys like Beanie Wells, like big running backs like Beanie Wells, break long ones at 6'2", 235, and not get caught until the tail end. So I think this is someone Coach Laughlin really wants. You see him right there playing defense. I mean, the kid can do it all. He can do it all. So
yeah. No, he's a really good prospect. Again, and this is where, and we've talked about this before, where how Ohio State decides to allocate their NIL money, because this would be the kind of kid that you would have to allocate NIL money for. Like he's not a kid in your backyard who's got a lot of history with you. So how they decide to distribute that money would come into play as far as landing someone like Cooper. But he's in the 2026 class. The 2026 class is wide open. They've only got 4 commits right now. So they're doing a lot of groundwork early, but they're not getting a lot of commitments early, which personally I'm fine with, because we saw last year Ohio State get 5, 6, 7, 8 commitments rattling off in March and April, like right after the spring game, and then them not being able to hold some of those commitments. Like probably half of those guys ended up decommitting. Specifically, like I remember Nima Ford committed more early, than he ended up leaving, headed to Oregon. So I would much rather finish strong when it comes to recruiting than start strong.
Is there do you think it would? Do you think it would help if Brian Hartline also helped in this recruitment?
I mean, I don't think it can hurt, but I mean, I think both of us understand that Hartline is going to be more instrumental when it comes to recruiting receivers, obviously. And I do think it would help if he went in and explained to the running backs that they are going to go after how they're going to be used in his offense, because no one knows specifically what his offense is going to look like. I mean, we've got some idea just based off of how this team is built already with the roster that they have, but we don't know specifically if they're going to be a run first or pass first team, if they're going to run most out of the spread, or if they're going to run multiple sets. So I think it would help from that standpoint. But I mean, we've seen Laughlin's already come in and he's already done a really good job recruiting wise. So I mean, I don't think he needs necessarily any help to land a kid like this, but I think in the overall scheme of the offense, it might help to have him there.
Yeah, I would assume that Brian Hartline would take some things from BK being Brian Kelly from last year, and also some things from Ryan Day. I mean, he has both of their playbooks to go through. You know what I'm saying? So, and he has a lot of game tape that he can watch. You've been under these guys for a few years now with Ryan Day, and 1 year under Brian Kelly, and you've been able to see how to the cadence of calling plays, but especially through the run game, and how to manipulate the run game in that fashion, even when the offensive line might not be where you want it. I think that I think it's helped out over the last few years, or not over the last few years, but consistently. No matter what happens throughout the offense, running back at Ohio State is still a position of emphasis. And you hope players like Cooper see that.
Yeah, I mean, look no further than the run through the CFP. Both Travion and Quinshon Judkins were huge parts of why Ohio State were able to win the national championship. So I don't think that's going to be I certainly don't think that's going to be put on the back burner as far as the running back position is concerned.
No, right with you.
So now we move past the recruiting news. There's something I wanted to talk to you about that I've seen just really sweeping across college football. And Ohio State's already kind of done a version of this, but for a different reason. So multiple other programs are canceling their spring games. And Ohio State hasn't canceled their spring game, but they have modified it. So where it's going to be a spring showcase, which we still don't know what that necessarily entails. It won't be what we have seen in recent years, but other programs have decided to do away with their spring games entirely. And the reasoning that I've seen a lot of coaches come out with is they don't want their players to get poached in the spring transfer portal window. Do you think that's a valid reason to cancel a spring game? Or do you think these coaches are just scared and just want to have a reason to, do less things that are fun for the fans?
I think it's sugar sweet. I think it's soft. I think it's weak. There's two reasons why. The first reason is that being that I think it's soft and it's weak. I think that if I saw Sharon Moore talk about this, I saw a quote from him.
I was going to ask you specifically about Sharon's comments,
and I thought he got it perfectly. Yep. That's going to happen whether you do that spring game or not. It's going to happen. The same players that you have been recruiting over the last 3-4 years, 2 years, everyone else in the nation is also. They know who these kids are. They've been had relationships with them. These kids have good relationships with coaches on other team programs or other teams that they don't even go to.
Yep.
So heck, we saw Julian Sand. He went from Alabama to Ohio State off the loyalty to Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien, yeah.
That's the reason he came to Ohio State. That'd be the loyalty to him. So, Jeremiah Smith, he said a long time ago. He said as long as Brian Hartline and Ryan Day are coaching at Ohio State, I'm going to Ohio State. If they don't, things might change. So I don't know. I think it's weak. And then on the other side of it, I hate that for the fans. I think that's a game where there's a lot of families out there that don't have a chance to go take the kids to actual games. The price might be too steep. And so it's a chance for people in Columbus and the state of Ohio, or whether you're able to come out of the state. If you're a Buckeye fan in the state of Indiana, or Michigan, or Pennsylvania, you want to come in town and see it. And so so I hate that for the fans. And so where I think it's Ohio State. If you don't want to do a spring game, that's fine. Doing a showcase, whatever that is, like you said, I don't know, but it's still a chance for the fans to see their team.
I agree with you. And we've talked about this before. This is more than likely going to be one of the last spring transfer portal periods. They're probably just going to end up going down to one portal period where it's after the season where everyone just can enter their name and then they're locked in. So this won't even be an issue in future years. So that's not a valid reason to go ahead and cancel the spring game. So for other programs that are canceling their spring game because they're afraid that their players are going to get poached, like you said, that's already happening behind the scenes. Like these kids are known by every coach on every other program, and they've known them since their high school days. So it's not all of a sudden like these coaches don't know who these kids are, or they don't know that these kids can play already. Like and to me, it's a complete cop out. It's a complete it's quite frankly ridiculous that a coach would use this as a reason to go ahead and cancel the spring game. Now,
Yeah.
I understand Ryan Day's reasoning a little bit just because they did just complete the longest college football season in history, and they're having barely, really not even 2 months off. So I understand wanting to get the players who played, a lot of snaps, some time off, like the Sonny Styles, the Davis Enigmanosins of the world, on the roster. I understand wanting them to get a little bit of rest, but then at the same time, just have like a normal spring game where they're not even really playing. We know what they are. We know what they can do. I still like to be able to see a little bit more of a traditional spring game, even though they didn't really tackle a whole lot, but you can at least see some semblance of, oh, that guy, he's got a good burst. Oh, this quarterback made this read here. Oh, this defensive back, he made a really good play on the ball here. So I don't know what the spring showcase is going to entail. They're still selling tickets for it, so it's going to be something, and it better be something, pretty decent for fans if they're going to, sell $15 tickets for them. And like you, I do think for other programs to cancel the spring game when, a normal family or any family might not be able to afford to bring their entire family down to watch a game, and this was going to be their only opportunity. So it stinks for that purpose.
Yeah, and also, man, think about all the reasons why a player would enter the transfer portal, or why someone would illegally contact a player, right? There's a lot of reasons I can say before I even get to spring game. There's a lot of reasons why. I just it doesn't make any sense.
Well, and it's
especially there's already tape of the player out there.
Yeah, and if after the spring game comes and all of a sudden you're not getting like the playing time that you thought you were going to be, and the coach is like, hey, it's in your best interest to go ahead and transfer out if you want to get more playing time. Why not? And how is that scenario where, the other programs are poaching my players? Most of the time when you're transferring in the spring, it's because the guy isn't going to get enough playing time for your program anyway.
Yeah.
Like, the logic doesn't really make sense.
And that's why it's good that we're getting rid of him. The spring portal, you're not there to get a top-notch player. You're not. You're there to get a
stopgap.
Yeah, you're getting a depth piece at best, and it's not like you're getting it's not like you're getting like a Keon Sab. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like you're getting that. So
yeah, no, for real. So I know there were some former players talking about Mr. Bowen that had some high praise for him, and I know you wanted to talk about that. So fire away, give the people the news.
So I'll definitely get the people news. So I'm really, this made me excited. This because when we first talked about Tyler Bowen, you brought up you had a bit of a concern about him not coaching the position a very long time, and I didn't think about that. And as soon as you said, I said, okay, well, no, he has a point there, because it's a long stint from having to coach that position up, right? So I'm reading this article here from 11 Warriors. It was great, great article, and I'll put the link here in the chat so everyone can read it for themselves. But let me pull this up here. Sorry about that. Here we go. So this is what he says. He says, "I love Coach Tebow. I don't know if are we gonna call him that, Ryan?
Just call him
Tebow. I don't know about that one, but
I won't be calling him Tebow.
Yeah, I think I was calling him Bowen, but now. But he says, I love Coach Tebow. He's a hard worker, one of the hardest working coaches I've been around, and I'm happy for him. Going up to Ohio State, and I know he's going to just be just as vigilant as he was as the OC for our O line. I'm sorry, for their O line. So they got a good one. Another one from Tootin. I don't know if you saw. Did you watch the combine at all?
A little bit. I didn't catch as much of it as I normally do, but yeah.
Okay. So did you see the run back Tootin from Virginia? He ran like 4.3. What 4.3?
I did not see that. I did not see that.
But I wasn't expecting him to run that. But he says he's a great coach. He comes in and day out, puts his best foot forward. He was our OC, so he tried to find out a lot of ways to make us successful. He puts a lot of the hard work in, hours in. Usually, like the first one in, last one out, we see his truck out there. So he definitely cares about the team he's coaching for, and I definitely think they're getting a great coach. Listen, man, if they hear that from guys that are just recently former players, like they were just with him,
Yeah.
And to hear all that high praise, especially you're hearing it from an offensive lineman and you're hearing it from a running back, which we both have talked about, and how, in the past game he hasn't been that great, but in terms of scheming up the run game, he's been fantastic in his career.
Yeah.
And so I think day in and day out, and we're just starting spring and practice here. I'm getting bullish on this team.
I mean,
I'm almost there. I'm not there yet.
Sure. And I mean, it's always good to hear former players talk good about a coach who you just hired. Like, that's obviously something that you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
It's good that his former players like him. We talked about how Matt Patricia's former players hated him. It's good to hear that his Tyler Bowen's former players liked him. It remains to be seen for me what he can do as far as improving the offensive line play in terms of just player development. He's got the reputation of being a pretty darn good recruiter, which is something that Justin Fry was not. They're kind of opposites in that way. Fry, specifically this past season, showed the ability to develop guys and put these guys in a situation where it was next man up and there was no beat loss. We saw that during the run in the CFP. So I'm interested to see if Bowen can do that. And that's part of the reason why they hired all the offensive analysts to help him with that, too.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to have help. And you talked about you being bullish on this team. I mean, they're defending national champions. Why wouldn't you be bullish on them?
No, good point.
I did see the Vegas odds makers are also bullish on them. Vegas has Ohio State as the co-favorites to win the national championship in 2025. They are co-favorites with Texas. Both of them are plus 500. So, just based off of those early odds, the first game this season in the shoe, that could be a 1 versus 2 matchup, which we've talked about before. I think at worst, that's going to be a top 3 matchup, I think. So I think that's...
You think it'll be at worst?
Yeah. I don't see any scenario in which either team is not ranked in the top 3 in the preseason polls.
Oh, let me see. Texas, Ohio State, maybe Georgia. No. Who else will be up there? Oregon? No, yeah, you're right.
Oregon's probably the other team, but...
Yeah, I think you're right, Ryan. That's going to be a top 3 matchup to start the season.
Yeah, and here's some of the other odds that they've got out there already. Georgia, 6.5 to 1, so they're plus 650. Oregon, plus 700. Penn State, plus 750. Alabama and Notre Dame are tied at 15 to 1, which is interesting. Tennessee, 18 to 1. Clemson, 20 to 1. LSU, Michigan, and Ole Miss are 25 to 1, which I can't even believe Michigan has that high odds based off of their roster. But their schedule, as we talked about earlier, it's baby shit soft, so that's probably why they get that bump. A&M's 35 to 1. Miami's 45 to 1. In Florida, South Carolina are 50 to 1. So I mean, just looking at the talent that Ohio State has back next season, I understand that they lose. I mean, they only bring back 3 starters on defense. They bring back Sonny Styles, Zigba Nosen, and Caleb Downs. Jermaine Matthews played a lot, but he wasn't a starter. They lose their entire defensive line. On offense, they lose, even more. technically on the offensive line, they only bring back one starter, even though they've got other guys who played a lot because of the injury. So that makes me feel a little bit better. We have a brand new quarterback and a brand new starting running back. You'll have the receiving core is the only thing that's mainly intact. So they lost a lot of talent.
Interior O-line. Interior O-line.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from the starters who they were hoping to have all year last year, I mean, Josh Simmons gone. Seth McLaughlin gone. Donovan Jackson gone. Josh Fryer gone. So they.
I guess that's the playoff interior. Yeah, the playoff interior.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
That's a better way. That's a better way to say it.
The guys who played like the last 6 or 7 games, they're mainly back. You'll get Hinsman back, Shamola, Saraveld, all those guys. But I think that's honestly part of the reason why these odds are so high, because even though Ohio State is replacing a lot of those offensive line starters, they had a lot of guys come back, or they had a lot of guys who had to play snaps, and they're back. Even though you lose the nation's best center, you lose a first-round left tackle, you still have 3 guys who they feel comfortable playing, and really 4 if you count Luke Montgomery in there too. So, I think that's part of the reason that even no matter who the quarterback is going to be, which is going to be one of the 2 5-stars, I think it's either going to be Sane or St. Clair. We both think it's going to be Sane at this point. So I think that's why.
I'm telling you, you keep overshooting.
I can't do it.
You keep shooting over Lincoln, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I will keep shooting over Lincoln.
I hope this never happens. Like I hope we're never put in this situation. But if Lincoln doesn't start, like, and something were to happen to whoever starts, or say if Julian started, I think he could be like that Kenny Guyton.
Okay.
I think he can.
Hey, I'm all for that.
Because like second half of the show here, I actually want to go through the schedule with you.
Yeah.
And I want to pick out so we can pick out what we think the hardest games will be in there.
Let's do
it. But I think that there's a stretch there where Ohio State plays at Illinois. I think at Illinois, and I want to say at Illinois and then at Wisconsin, back-to-back weeks. And I think if something happens, saying, knock on wood.
Yeah, let's not push that into existence.
I aggravated the dog right there, but it's okay. But that happens. He can go in there and manage those games. I think Lincoln. I think you're overshooting him here, man. I don't like it.
I don't think there's any way he wins the starting job. I like him as a guy. Like, I'm not nothing against him, but to me, he's Lincoln. He's Devin Brown 2.0, and Devin Brown already left, and now Lincoln's still hanging around.
It's still crazy to me. On 3 had Devin Brown as the number 1 player in the country.
Yeah. It wasn't not just a number 1 quarterback, but he's just 5-star recruit, like number 1 player.
Yeah.
I think
he'll do well at Cal. I think he'll do well there.
I think so too. But again, if Lincoln Keenan-Holtz is the starting quarterback, that tells me that yes, things went wrong on the injury front.
No, I think the opposite. I think that going into the season, Lincoln Keenan-Holtz is the starter. Like, he beats out Julian. That tells me he went out and won it. I think if he comes out, like, all things being equal, if you're telling me he is a starter week 1, that tells me that he beat Julian. That's what that tells me. It'll be the same for thing for Tavian, and I think Julian, he's the front runner, which isn't a bad thing. He should be the front runner.
Yep.
And so, but I don't think that. Cause I don't think Julian's going to do bad in spring. He's too talented to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're both on the same page. I think we both really like what's happening, and that's something else I wanted to talk to you about that happened over the combine before we get to the schedule. We had multiple guys at the combine just speak glowingly about Julian. I mean, Denzel Burke basically saying that, he is that dude. Like, he is that guy. Will Howard, very complimentary about him. Emeka Egbuka, same thing. So, like, all of these guys are coming out and saying, look, Julian is like, he's the next guy. Like, he's that good. People don't need to worry about him. So, to me, that instills a lot of confidence in what Day has built at the quarterback position. And a lot of confidence in what his abilities are. And, again, maybe part of the reason why these odds are so high, because they love what they've seen out of this kid. And we didn't really get to see a whole lot of him play. We saw that one bad pass against Tennessee, at the end of the game when it didn't really even matter. Yeah, exactly. So, I like I said, if those guys who were out there on the practice field with him every day have that good of things to say about him, that's what I'm going to trust.
So let's read this message here from the Voice of College Football. Then we actually want to respond to what you just said there. But get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football. Let's discuss how you also can reach your target market. Check out the experience on one of our current partners posted here on the screen. We are here to deliver for you. Contact us at sponsorships@bocfb.com today. Definitely looking out for that. We had a meeting actually today about that. So, yes, we are definitely looking. So, if you're watching and want to put, give a sponsorship and have your product here on the Wisconsin Football, please let us know.
Yes.
Well, to what you just said, though, I saw that, and that's another reason, Ryan, why I'm starting to get a little bullish on this team coming up here. And when I see a lot of the guys, and as much as I'm bringing up Lincoln only because I, little bit devil's advocate, little bit, some teeny bit of truth, I believe. But I've also thought that over the last, I watch, I see other people talking about some of the younger quarterbacks in college football, right? And I think Julian Sands is getting overlooked. I don't think he's talked about enough by national media. People talk about Arch Manning. People maybe talk about Dante Moore. Who's played more games than Julian. Of course, he started games for UCLA.
He wasn't good.
Yeah, he wasn't good there. But I don't blame that. I don't put that on. But again, then you got Aiden Childs over at Michigan State, who I think is going to be really good. They talk about Raiola. It's like everyone forgot that Julian Sands was a top 3 quarterback in his class with Lagway and Dillon, and actually all 3 of them held the number 1 spot at some point. They all did.
Yeah.
So I think that people forget the unique situation that Julian Sands is in, where he's the quarterback at Ohio State. He's not Lagway at Florida. He's not Raiola at Nebraska. He's at Ohio State. What's around him is a little bit different. The coaching for him is a little bit different.
Well, and I think that's part of the reason why he hasn't been talked about as much, because of the weapons that he has. Like, he's going to have Jeremiah Smith to throw the ball to. He's going to have Carnell Tate to throw the ball to. Those guys have proven time and time again that they have been able to, they've been proven that they can break games. I mean, especially Smith. And obviously, we've talked about, we're both very high on what we want to see from Brendan Ennis this year. They got Max Clare, a guy who's proven it at a lesser program like Purdue to be able to produce. And now he's got, Ohio State offensive line talent and wide receivers around him to open up even more things for him. So, yeah, and I agree here with Day 1K. Like I said, unless something goes terribly wrong, Lincoln should not win the starting job. Now, if he does somehow win it just based off of, a great spring and a great fall, then by all means, but I just don't see that happening. But and this goes back to my point of all these guys talking glowingly about Julian. Like, if they all have seen it in practice and they saw as a freshman, true freshman, like, he didn't really have a lot of time with their first team guys at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
right,
you give him first team reps with the weapons that are, around him, a good running back, CJ Donaldson Jr., pretty good offensive line, and I think sky's the limit for him.
I agree. I've already given out what I believe he's going to have this year. I think he's going to hit 40 touchdowns this season. I think he's going to hit 4K in yards, or at least get right near it. Justin got 40. Justin Fields got 40 touchdown passes, but didn't hit 4K, so it can happen. Easily happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know about 4K, but
I think if Ryan knows he can throw the ball, and he knows he has a defense, I think he'll do it. I think if you gave Ryan Day the choice of saying like, hey, would you rather your offense look like it did this past season, or maybe you're a little bit more efficient running the ball, or would you rather your passing offense, or would you rather your offense look like 2021? I think he would take 2021.
Well, the offense they just had in 2024 won a title, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I'd like to have a little bit more balance like that.
If 2021 had this defense, do you think they won the title that season? I think they beat Georgia that season.
Well, yeah, they beat Georgia and never smoked the shit out of TCU for sure.
Yeah, like no, that was
okay, but
I'm saying 2021. Yeah, I mean 2021.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. So I mean,
do you think that they're going to have a defense? Because they lose a lot of talent, and now you have a brand new defensive coordinator who hasn't done jack on the defensive side of the ball for almost a decade.
You're about to make really hot takes, Ryan.
Okay.
I listen. I might be cashing checks that my ass can't cash. I just might be.
You? No.
But this defense, man. I have no reason to believe that Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson Jr. will be really good next year. I have no reason to believe they will. I know for a fact.
Curry.
I know for a fact that Edric Houston's going to be a monster in the middle, and on the I'm sorry. Edric Houston's going to be a monster no matter where they put him, from right end to D tackle to nose tackle to D tackle to outside on the edge. I don't care if he has to play jack. I don't give a damn what he does. He's going to be really good at it if it's in that front seven. And then we have McDonald. All right. A lot of the guys on this team have made impact plays at some point through the season and have done it multiple times. Caden McDonald had an impact play against Penn State on the goal line stand. Pushed their right guard 3 yards back on a play up the middle that stopped one of the touchdown runs I could have had on that goal line stand. Look at guys like Jermaine Mathis in the secondary. And also we bring back, I think, key guys in linebacker and with Caleb Downs at safety. So you have someone that can be a coach on the field for you at safety and at linebacker. Sonny Styles last year was his first time playing linebacker. There's no reason to believe that he will not be better this season in his second year at playing that position. Caleb Downs is a junior. Caleb Downs is already the second best player in the country. Aikman Olsen's he's probably coming into the season as a top 10 corner in college football coming into the season. I believe
he's also the most penalized guy by far in college football.
He's the most listen, man. I told you before, he plays corner like a linebacker. But damn it, but again, of all this, he got called for 14 of them last year.
It was too many. However many it was too many.
But on the rest of the plays in the game, he's locked down. The guy's locked down, and I would say he's the best tackling corner in college football.
He is very physical. He's physical, so he's a good tackler. Yes. By the way, sidebar. I went to the Stadium Series game between the Jackets and the Red Wings on Saturday.
Yeah, screw you. Yeah, screw you, man.
And I mean, I'm not even like a super Jackets fan. I'm more of a Penguins fan, but I mean, go Jackets for that game. So who they brought out when they had the trophy to start the game, it was Sonny Styles and Jaden Fielding. Of all the guys they could have brought out, Jaden Fielding? What?
Maybe wait. All right, it's time to give Jaden Fielding some love. Wait a second. No, I'm going to be the one to do it here. Jaden Fielding, if you ever see this, Ryan may never do this, but I will. Both of us had a lot to say about you this season. We had a lot to say about you.
Kicks in the CFP.
But when you got into the CFP, you were money. You were money. And the thing is, Ryan, the cool part about it is, it's one thing. Well, we knew the offense could hit that level, right? We knew the defense could hit that level. At no point this season have we seen the special teams game, specifically the kicking game, hit an elite level, or at least a consistent, really good level. Jaden Fielding in the playoffs was really good.
Yeah,
like when he hit that, I did not watch the 46-yarder that he hit against Tennessee, and then when I saw it back, I said, "Man, he nailed that!" Like all confidence. And then you came into the national championship, and you hit. Hey, listen, sealed it. You hit the game win. It's the game sealer.
I mean, no disrespect to Jaden Fielding at all. He played really well in the CFP. but can't you get someone better, like someone more recognizable than the kicker to join Sonny Styles out there? Like, can't you bring Caleb Downs or Jeremiah Smith or
Mhm.
just someone else? I don't know. I thought that was interesting, but I know you want to go through the schedule here, so let's go ahead and get to that.
Yeah, so I've been really curious about how you feel about some of these games, right?
Yep.
And what games do you exactly believe Ohio State could possibly lose? Also, everyone in the chat, again, thank you for joining us tonight. And make sure to hit the like button and let us know in there what games you think Ohio State could possibly lose. What are the toughest games of the season? And so, of course, I think we both agree on this, Ryan. The first game you have to bring up is the Grambling State game, right? No, of course you bring up the Texas game.
Yeah. And that game's going to tell us a lot about this team early, I think.
Yes, it will. And I think especially on the defensive side, I think the offense is going to be fine. I think for a lot of people are focused on what Ohio State looks like because we lost a lot of players. I think a lot of people are forgetting Texas just lost their whole offensive line and a lot of their defensive players and some of their weapons on offense and at wide receiver and running back. So, I actually think Julian Sands is in a. I think Julian Sands is in the best of all the new starters this season or guys that younger guys. I think Julian Sands is in the best position than any other quarterback in college football.
I would have liked it better if it was Grambling State and Ohio and then Texas. I would have felt a little bit better if that was the lineup.
I don't. I'm actually happy we started to get the season out like this because it's not just us in that field. Texas got to go through the same BS we have to in this game. It's gonna listen. There's a chance this game could end up looking like the, or just not as bad, but it could end up looking like the 2020, no, the 2019, no, the 2021 Clemson Georgia game.
Okay.
When I think what Georgia won that game, was it 6-3 or something like that?
Yeah, it was disgusting.
It was 6-3. I think it won't look like that. I mean, some years before, way back when LSU beat Bama 12-9 or something like that. Like it won't. It looks a lot like that, but it's gonna look ugly. It's gonna get ugly in the game because everything's not. All the kinks aren't worked out yet.
Yeah. I think the game is going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I think it's actually going to be a close game. Texas is going to come in with a lot of motivation because obviously the last game they played was against Ohio State and it didn't go the way they wanted it to. I actually think their ceiling is a little bit higher with Arch Manning. I know you were a big Arch Manning guy for the Cotton Bowl. So, I'm interested. That game's just going to answer a lot of questions for me as far as what the team's going to look like system-wise on both sides of the ball. Because we don't know what Patricia's going to run yet. We don't know what Heartland's going to run yet. Like, we've got an idea on both of them, but until the ball's kicked on August 30th, we just don't know. But that's definitely a game that they could lose. But if they lose that, that's not going to be like a disqualifier from the CFP by any means.
Yeah, it definitely won't be. But I think it's a good litmus test on where your team is at, especially on the offensive side. Because I mean, early in the season, the defense, or think about like spring games. Usually, the defense has the drop on the offense because they've seen the offense every single week, so the offense isn't going to look as good. So, like same thing in this game. You got Arch Manning, who's going to be his first time ever starting out. Same thing with Julian Sand. This is going to look a little bit different. Now, the good thing is, what the offense looks like for you. Like you know what to expect from both these teams. They both know what to expect from each other. So I'm expecting a really good one. I think if there was a blowout, it would be Texas getting blown out this game.
I think so too. I don't think Texas blows out Ohio State. No. And you mentioned the at Illinois, at Wisconsin, back to back there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Illinois is going to be pretty decent this year. They're another team that could possibly go 10-2 just based off of their schedule. Ohio State's one of the only two tough teams that they play. That one doesn't scare me as much. Depending on what time that Wisconsin game, if it's a night game at Camp Randall, and they've actually figured out their offensive issues, that could be a scary game. They've got a new OC in there. Luke Fickle is kind of, I wouldn't say he's on a hot seat. They kind of signed him. I mean, they signed him to an extension recently, but like his hires haven't necessarily been good. So, it'll be interesting to see how good Wisconsin is. But the best thing about that is after that game, you get the bye week before dealing with Penn State. So that is honestly the biggest thing that I see there. It's actually like I like we get Penn State at home, which is good, but to have the bye week there before that game, so there's no possibility of a trap game. That's the biggest thing that I take away from the schedule, because I think Penn State is Ohio State's biggest threat to winning the Big Ten title this year.
Yeah, that game, I think it's actually even before that. I think Minnesota this season is going to be a pretty good team. I think I have them. I think I actually have Minnesota at either 8-4 or 9-3 this upcoming season. At Washington, I mean, we learned this past year, and you would think that, after you've been able to, you've seen it one season, you probably adjust better to going from coast to coast. But as we've seen in the Big Ten, going from coast to coast is not easy. It really isn't. So I mean, that could be a tough game in there before you even get to the Illinois game. But when you go to Champaign, I think they're going to have a really good team this season. I have them going 10-2. I have them making the playoffs this upcoming season.
Well, just before you continue that thought about traveling out west to Washington, they do have a bye week before that as well, so that also helps with that travel.
Right, that you are very correct about that. That's actually lovely. And they have a bye week from the Wisconsin before the Penn State game after Wisconsin. So that's I think those are overall. This is the second season where Ohio State's had some favorable buys.
They schedule those buys well.
Thank you, Ross. No, I really think that Illinois game is gonna be tough. Returning quarterback, they bring back the most returning production in the Big Ten. So that could be tough. And of course, at Camp Randall, first off, what time is the game at? That's a question that I believe everyone should be asking. As Oregon found out last year, weird things happen when you go on the road in the Big Ten. You step on the field, think you're gonna easy one. You blink your eye once, boom, you're in the fourth quarter, and you're down by 3 with 2 minutes left. And you've only scored 6 points. So sometimes it can get really hard there. And I think that's going to be a really interesting stretch for Ohio State. We get to see what Jeff Fish does at Wisconsin, how they look in their second year. PJ Fleck, I think people think that this might be one of the better teams that he's had at Minnesota, and Minnesota was a hard out last season too. So
I'm not as worried about Minnesota as you are, especially because that game's at home. I think the games that could give them trouble in the Big Ten are the at Illinois game, depending on what time the Wisconsin game is, and if they've got their offensive, stuff together. And then obviously, the big one in the Big Ten is the Penn State game. But Ohio State gets them at home. And quite honestly, if James Franklin couldn't beat Ohio State, at home last year after a 10-0 lead, I don't know if he's ever going to be able to do something like that again. And I know they finish at Michigan. I think by that point, Ohio State will know what they are as a team. They know what they'll have offensively and defensively. I don't think we're going to see the same sort of result as we did in 2024. So, I understand the history that we've had over the last 4 years. I understand that we're going to just I understand that I shouldn't say that I'm not worried necessarily about that final game, because I am, because of the results of the last 4 years, but I feel more confident coming off a national championship, coming off of Ryan Day calling the most aggressive stretches of games that he's played, or games that he's called, in the CFP. I just don't see him clamming up against Michigan like he did last year. So I don't necessarily see that game as a huge issue. Yeah.
Yeah, and Gary says, "I can't wait to play USC. What's up with UCLA?"
UCLA is bad. That's what's
Yeah,
up. They're bad.
Hey, Gary, you know how so every season, what I call Michigan State when they play Ohio State, I call it, it's like, you're a kid and you've been acting bad, and sometimes you gotta get sent to daddy, and that'd be us from Michigan State, and we gotta whoop you real bad, and we do that every year to Michigan State. I think UCLA is gonna be one of those teams. One of those teams Ohio State just beats up on when they play them. That's a bad program right now. And then with the USC, I can't wait to play them either. I think it's really
Honestly,
cool.
they might not, when they play USC next year, Lincoln might not even be there. He might be gone. He might get fired.
I think they're committed to him. I think they're committed to him.
I mean, they've got a big buyout, but Jimbo Fisher had the most unbuyable buyout ever, and they got rid of him. They paid him. They paid him basically $100 million to go away.
Who do you get? Who do you get?
You're USC. You have the tradition. You've got the recruiting ground. You've got perfect weather. Like, recruits are lining up to go to Southern California if you can.
I've seen them make terrible hires. I've seen them make terrible hires.
Look,
I think Helton, I don't trust them. I don't trust them as I don't trust them as an organization to go out and do better than Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley, we can bash him for the last few years that he's had. We all know Lincoln Riley is a good head football coach. We all know he is. He's had some missteps at USC. Clearly, we see that, but we know he's a good football coach.
Is he?
Yes. I think that if you gave him Alabama last season, I don't think they go 9-4. I don't.
6-6 team around Caleb Williams.
That was
Oh, okay. You're just gonna explain that season away?
No. USC was still soft on defense.
Because you hired Alex Grinch.
Yeah, but
we saw what that happened at Ohio State.
You gotta go through the ups and downs. Every coach's path is not the same. But we can't sit here and act like Oklahoma didn't happen. We've seen the guy have success.
All right, look, here's their schedule this season. This is a brutal second half of the year. So after their first 4 games, which, cakewalks, they go at Illinois, home against Michigan, at Notre Dame, at Nebraska, and then they finish off home Northwestern. That'll be easy. Home versus Iowa, not so easy. At Oregon, home against UCLA. I could see them losing 3 or 4 games in that stretch. If they do, Lincoln might be gone. I'm just saying. Ohio State might be facing some other coach in a Trojan hat come next season. So
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think he'll be there. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong. Like, that's why I shut up, because I'm like, making a good point. But I think that I don't want to go back on what I said. I have been calling them the new Nebraska, but we can't act like there isn't a chance that USC can't be good in the Big Ten. They can be good in the Big Ten.
Correct.
They're like,
now, to be fair to your point, Lincoln Riley's buyout is around $90 million. So
you can't buy
pretty high. It's pretty high.
It doesn't make sense. Listen, financially, it doesn't make sense. That's why when everyone said let go Ryan Day, I said, dude, you're talking about $65 million right here, and then you talk about another 40 to pick someone else up. You're talking about
bought out Jimbo Fisher. That's why I will never say there's not a contract that someone won't buy out.
Man, I think they were idiots to buy out that contract. I think you let that coach listen. The program can always come back. Let that coach flame out.
All right. So just to finish things up here, we're looking at the schedule. What do you think their floor is? Because I think we both think the ceiling is an undefeated season. What do you think the floor is for this Ohio State team with that schedule? My floor.
If everything goes. If let's say Brian Hartline would have clearly had some struggles coaching this season. Okay, calling plays and things like that. Let's say the defense, instead of being a top, like I would be happy if the defense was top 15 to top 20. Let's say they bounce. Let's say somehow they're top 30, top 40. So not as good. Let's say Julian Sands not doing what he should be doing, or as well as we think he should be playing. There's a chance they could go 9-3.
I think 10-2 is the floor.
Like, like I'm saying that, but all those things happen. Like I'm giving a lot of different variables that would have to happen for Ohio State to do that. I think people sometimes forget just what Ohio State is. I think sometimes people think that we're a program that wins a championship and goes 8-5, let alone even go 8-5. So
yeah.
But I listen. I'm not talking about any other programs. I'm not sitting here talking about anyone else. I don't even know if other programs win national championships and go 8-5. And I don't know. I don't know if who that could be about. I just know that the team that plays on the banks of the Olentangy doesn't. And neither does Ryan. Right. Yeah, and neither does Ryan. I'm sorry. And neither does national championship head coach Ryan Day. So.
That's right. Anything else you want to cover before we get out of here?
No, man. Just remember everybody. We show up on Thursday for the call-in show.
Yep.
We'll have the link ready. Drop in, call. Any questions you may have, post in the comments. It's your show. Also, be sure to check out all the other shows in the network. If you got family members and they just sadly happen not to be a Ohio State champion Buckeye fan, like we all are, and they're here. Me, Ryan, everyone else here in the chat, and let them know. And also look out on March 11th for the Buckeye Brigade. That's about it, man.
Absolutely. Well, we will see you guys on Thursday, at 8:00 on Thursday. Come with your calls, your thoughts, comments, all of that, and we'll see you guys then. OH.
IO.